And welcome back everybody else who's online. I remember you sign in for each of the presentations, sign out, and then sign into the next presentation. That's a key point. That's the way you guys are getting CEUs as well. Okay, so we're here. Our next presentation is What's New in Location Training in BC. We're here with Ronald Enns. And Ronald is started with the water and wastewater industry in 2002. He's with the City of Vancouver and has gone from many positions from laborer to utility locator to subforeman acting superintendent. Very good. Leaving in 2015, he went to the Kwantlen Polytech University as a manager of business and development with the focus on bringing education for operations to BC, Yukon, and beyond. Joining the BC Common Ground Alliance in 2017, ASTTBC Underground Utility Locator Board in 2018, a member of the Resource Committee for BC One Call 2019 and 20, he joined the Canadian Association of Pipeline and Utility Locating Contractors working on the Canada Utility Locate Standards. This man knows his pipes.
I know my committees.
And his committees. Anyways, welcome. Ronald.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Thanks. Test check. Can you hear me? Oh, awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, welcome. I hope this is a good time for everyone. Right after lunch, I'm going to play some soft music in the background, sing some lullabies, and then at the end of this, you get CEUs. What a good deal. That's how I remember it. No, that's not how it was anymore. It sounds like I don't have a whole lot of practical experience in there somewhere. It sounds like all I want to do is join boards and pretend I know what to do with this stuff. And the reality is I have no idea how to use it. I'm trying to be a little light, you know. Okay, never mind. I have a basic idea. Just so we'll talk a little bit about that stuff. We'll talk about what's new. I also throw in a little bit of 101. And what I find when I'm instructing and teaching, a lot of the questions that I'm constantly getting asked, maybe we'll bring some of those up. And I really want to engage you guys in this. Utility locating, is it a perfect art out there? Right? Is there a one person that walks out and says, hey, I know how to do it all. I'll never stump. I'll always find everything you need. Absolutely not. No. So, and that's one of our biggest challenges, and I think that's probably the reason why it's such a big problem and issue for us, because I love the way it states is that you must accurately determine the location of all underground utilities before you dig. Accurate? What's accurate mean? Please define that definition, because it's pretty tough. Although GPR, what's the chance of finding it? Pretty good, right? You're going to find something. But are you going to find what you're looking for? Well, you'll find something. And yeah, it could be what you're looking for, depending on, again, the person who's operating the machine, his experience, his knowledge, everything else to whether you're going to get what you're going to find. And even then, depends on what you're looking for. So there's a lot of factors in it, because what we don't see, it's really hard to determine where something is if you can't see it, touch it, feel it, right? Then it doesn't exist until some machine tells you there's something there, and it's really hard to put that faith in it. So I think that's really the separation with most of when it comes down to utility locating. So we'll talk about some of the things that are going to happen. I'm going to go through a little bit of history. How many here has actually heard of the BC Common Ground Alliance? Okay, so I got probably a third of the room. That's awesome. I asked that same question about 10 years ago, and I got no hands. So something's going right. So BC Common Ground Alliance, which is basically where I'm from and what I represent here today, is basically a committee that is our whole focus, just like the BC Water and Waste Association focuses on water and waste operators. We focus on anything underground, ground disturbance, utility locating, trenching, that kind of stuff. That's our focus. That's where we're the association to help you and your municipalities, cities, businesses, whatever that may be where you come from. That's what we do. And we're made up of all of those people across the board. So we'll talk a little bit about that, just to kind of give a context of what we are, what we do, and then we'll kind of move on to some of the things that have changed in the training aspect. Because here, actually, show of hands, and I know it's really hard for everyone who's going virtual, because you can't necessarily do it. But who here finds it easy to get training in utility locating? Nobody finds it easy to get utility? Just pick a phone call, boom, ring, ring, you get a date, and away you go.
We went through, I went to see
Yeah.
Took all our guys through State University.
State University, yeah, Chicago State.
Yeah, so we did
Yeah.
that, and it wasn't, I mean, they booked it through the city, so I don't know who exactly booked it, but it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, it wasn't that hard, yeah.
No.
Yeah, you guys must have a great budget.
I-
Chicago State, that's a long way to come. Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and I've been through the same courses as well, taking their advanced locating. And they had to come out here, and we had all the cities, municipalities, each bring 2 or 3 people, one big room, and
We didn't go to Chicago.
we,
We did it in Fortis in Surrey.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect, yeah, we did it in a hotel in Surrey. So, yeah, same concept. Awesome. So hopefully we can put some clarification to that. I'm hoping to bring all of that clarification to where it is, who's reside, who owns it, what the material is, and really what it's all about. Okay, and the biggest thing is I want to entertain a ton of questions, right? So that's the main thing. I want you guys to walk out of here thinking, okay, I have a really good grasp of utility locating in BC. Sound fair enough? Not perfect grasp, really good one. Okay, all right. So we'll start with basically what is the BC Common Ground Alliance? Well, we're a nonprofit organization, much like BC WWA. Established to lead basically is best practices in the coordination of activities to ensure the highest possible standards for worker safety. Right? We want to make sure public safety and damage prevention is at the top thing of what we want to do. That's what we really are trying to do. And we do that through underground infrastructure, and we do that by representing all the different industry leaders. So every utility owner in the ground, or any utility that's in the ground, chances are 90% of them are on our board, or on our committee, or in working with us to try to address all the issues that have come up and come up with some solutions. Okay? So the course that the BC Common Ground Alliance owns is the 3-day Utility Locate Specialist course. Anybody heard of the 3-day Utility Locate Specialist course? Okay, I see a lot of nods, okay. So and that's basically a course that was developed by the BC Common Ground Alliance through their educational committee, through all the different providers, putting their input into that course. That's basically where it comes from. So the people who, we'll talk about that too, but first of all, the BC Common Ground Alliance, what our main focus is to bring out some safety guidelines around safe excavation. So I don't know if you guys heard of ground disturbance 201 standards or anything like that. That comes from, that's been well known in Alberta for 2 decades. We brought that over here, and now it's relatively new to BC, but really it was to focus in on the TMX, LNG, the pipelines that are going in. We have a very small pipeline industry compared to Alberta, obvious reasons, but we still have a pipeline industry here. So we wanted to bring that certification here. So now we have a BC 201 standard. There's an Alberta 201 standard, there's now a BC 201 standard. And probably many people here probably have taken the course, probably more online, because I'm the one that usually teaches the course here, and I haven't seen a whole lot of phone calls, but I've had a few. But I think we've got about 1,600 in the province of BC who have taken and passed the course and have their 201 standard. That's quite a lot of people when you think about it. And out of that, I hate to say it, about 1,300 or so took it online. So which means 200 of you did not want to see me. I'm really upset. But no, that's awesome. So that just basically tells us there's a lot of people interested in the course and a lot of people that want to take it. So that's great. So we do that, which is underground infrastructure, but we also do utility locating. And we built a course back in 2011. So the educational committee, not we, I was not part of that at that time, built the course, all the input from all the different providers, and that's basically where that course resides. And it's getting better and better as we go along. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the other thing is the safety recognition for City Excellence Awards and safety. We do that. We take part in that. We do our Safe Dig workshops. You guys probably have seen Dig Safe workshops or ground disturbance workshops where all the providers are there, the TELUS, I shouldn't say TELUS, Shaw's there, Hydro, Trans Mountain's usually there, sometimes Spectra's there. We have all the different utility providers, basically, Fortis, obviously. All the different providers that come in there and basically put up a booth, and we do seminars, and each of them have a chance to speak. BC One Call, obviously, a big one in there too. So those are educational seminars. Usually we do it at a minimum cost just to basically break even. And all of us are there just on a volunteer basis, right? So it's not a moneymaker. It's not what it's designed for. So we have those. We're still trying to bring those out, but as you know, the pandemic has caused us a few issues, a few problems, a few hiccups. I don't see anybody wearing masks here today. I forgot to tell you I've got COVID. Damn, sorry. Oh, slipped my mind. Yeah. I'm quite, yeah. Nobody's gonna say, oh. It's okay, we're 2 meters spaced, we're okay. No, I don't, obviously don't have. The Safe Dig workshops, we're starting to get those going again, because really, in person, I mean, virtual training, hey, we've all had to go that way. It was pretty good. Actually, it was funny, for a lot of people who knew what Zoom was to people who know what Zoom is now, is quite a bit different. All right, most people have it already, on their phones and stuff like that, and are getting a lot better and better at it. So, which is a good tool. I wish I could have found a different way to do that years away, when I thought virtual was a great way to train people up north and smaller communities, which we tried to do many times and really had terrible success. Soon suddenly COVID came along, and they're coming to me in droves now, and we're doing courses online all across Western Canada, not just Yukon and not just up north. So anyway, that's another story we'll talk about. But so education, that's what we do a lot of as well. National level priorities, we have BC Common Ground Alliance, we have the Canadian Common Ground Alliance, we have the Common Ground Alliance, which is all of North America. So we all have the same, we all share resources, and we all have the same philosophies and the same priorities, same goals. We advocate the use of DIRT. Anybody heard of the DIRT tool? No? That's when everyone here is supposed to put their hand up and go, yes, we know all about DIRT. DIRT is basically a national federal tool, and it's across Canada, and we use that tool to bring forward awareness to the federal government of the urgency of building in better legislation, better regulations, better tools to do our job to find the utilities before we hit them. Is there a lot of people here that have dug in trenches? Anybody here work in trenches on a regular basis? Quite a few. Is there anybody here that has dug in trenches on a regular basis ever not hit any utility? Perfect record. You have a perfect, you must have just started. What's your secret? Locate. It's really difficult to know what's in the ground unless we can find it, right? And can we find everything in the ground? No. So we have some challenges, right? And the new stuff they're putting in the ground is even less locatable than some of the old stuff, which is really, start looking at our future, well, what's that going to look like? I mean, it's not like we have fiber locators, running around, right? So we got some challenges. The DIRT tool is basically a tool to, it's basically a database. It's a tool where you can report all your investigations or accident investigations and outcomes. It doesn't list anybody. We don't want names or companies or anything like that. We just want to know what happened and what the circumstances were. And it's just basically a tool that you could submit. And what they do is we record that Canada-wide, and we use those as stats to give to the federal government to show them that we need help. Does that kind of make sense? Our main focus right now, has always been for a long time, is for the BC Common Ground Alliance, is to make the one-call centers all across Canada mandatory. That's a big ask, because right now they're voluntary. So when they say call before you dig, you're not going to get every single provider out there. And I'm not going to name Shaw as being the one that's not on there, but there's going to be one that won't do it. So I won't name Shaw, okay? I get in trouble for these things. Shouldn't be doing this at a conference too, where everyone's listening. Yeah.
Is that tool publicly accessible? Can you access it?
That's a great question. I don't actually know. We want it publicly accessible in the way that we can fill out our reports and send them into the government, and it just goes to it actually goes to the Canadian Common Ground Alliance, and they actually put stats together and they give it to the federal government. But we think we're recording approximately 30% of all the actual incidences that are happening, we think. We're hoping to increase that, because the more we have, the more we're going to know how much damage we do, the more the federal government's going to listen to us, the more they're going to do something about it. So we're hoping someone over there will take the political ring and go forward with it and try to make it a little bit more mandated, because it'd be nice as a digger to know that if I make one phone call, I'm going to get all the utilities, right? Alberta's got a better system than we. Anybody here worked in Alberta? Alberta's got a really good system. It's 2 days, not 3 days. You get all the BC1 call. And most of the providers will come out, mark it, and flag it for you before you get there in 2 days. Wow, wish I had that. Yes, sir.
Are you seeking to collect the data from those causing the breakages, or are you collecting from those doing the repairs?
Both. We're collecting.
Repeat the question for people online, please.
Yep. Repeat the question. So he basically is asking, is the When you report, is it the people who are doing the damage reporting, or is it the people who are collecting that information to the reporting? Technically, right now, it's the businesses that, like Fortis and like Spectra and like Kinder Morgan, that are doing the reporting. We're trying to get more people involved in that. Fortis is actually a very good supporter of it. So they're doing a fair amount, but we're not getting all the companies. The Hydro does it as well. They call into DIRT as well, and it's part of their process. After accident investigation, everything else has been closed off, they send it to DIRT. Basically, just fill out the form, send it in. And it's an electronic form. So we'll get more uptake on it, yes.
So here in BC, it's not mandatory for people to participate in BC formal. It is mandatory in other provinces?
No.
No, it's not.
It's not mandatory it's not mandatory in any province I know of that has a one-call center where by law they have to call the one-call center. Here, the membership is voluntary, so it's not mandatory. I know in Alberta it's not mandatory either. The rest of the provinces, I'm pretty sure Saskatchewan and Manitoba are the same as us. After we hit Ontario, I don't know. Honestly, don't know, because that's kind of a bit beyond my reach or my range. But most of them aren't. If there was one, we'd probably be adopting that wording and then putting it into our WorkSafe BC regulations somewhere. At least or into the guidelines first and then make it to the regulation eventually. That would be ideal, but that hasn't happened yet. But that's one of the things we're trying to advocate for. So network and collaborating is the other thing that we do quite commonly. It gives us a chance in the room when we have our meetings and stuff to talk to different people at different levels, and usually I have representatives from all the different utility owners that we have at our BC WWA meeting or BC CGA meetings. Stakeholder engagement, we do a lot of that too. We actually we go once a year during April, Dig Safe Month. We actually go to Parliament and we hold a big breakfast, and on behalf of us from the BC Common Ground Alliance, and we bring a lot of our Highland members there, and we try to work with politicians and stuff to understand who we are, what we do, and what we're trying to accomplish. And that's kind of our goal, to reach out politically to see if we can't get more engagement that way, and then hopefully we can get a little bit of buy-in. We get the right person, the right senator, the right MLA that really wants to do something and put this as up front in their campaign, and then away you go, and before you know it, it all can happen very quickly once that piece starts to go forward. So that's one of the things that we do as well. We obviously respond to calls to an input from regulators. They ask us commonly, what is the industry? What are best practices? What do we do as a whole that helps us build our regulations better so that we're not building something that doesn't work? That makes sense, I hope. And then information, safety, industry practice, we're sharing it all the time. So those are basic things that the BC Common Ground Alliance do. If you want to join, hey, always happy to have other members. And if there's anyone from TELUS, we'd really like you to join. TELUS. Oh, okay. They're the only ones that's been absent for many years now. Okay, so history of the 3D utility locate specialist. So history of this one started, like I said, 2011. Committee got together, and these are the people that put it together, that served a small, medium, and large part, depending on where they were. So Kinder Morgan, Equal Electric, One Call Locators, BC Hydro, BC One Call, Ontario Regional Common Ground Alliance already had a course frame, so we took that framework and then we just made it better and made it ours. City of Burnaby, Kinder Morgan, Metro Van, Oregon Utility, believe it or not, Notification Center helped us, Western Leakage. Like, there's a lot of people on this list. Some of these people are still around. I still know them. Other people have retired and have gone to my sunnier pastures where I'd like to be, and I'm sure we all would like to be eventually. That's what we're working towards. But City of Vancouver, Rigid, Safety Authority, which we now know as Tech Safety BC, Shaw Cable. There's no TELUS on here. Jeez. So all these people have put these are all members that have joined the committee and built this course. Does it kind of make sense? Okay, so you're getting a fairly intensive course. The value out of this 3-day utility locate course is there's standards behind it. So as the BC Common Ground Alliance owns it, that means that not anyone can teach it, because we want to be able to hold those groups to some type of structure, right? We want to be able to audit, we want to be able to make sure the course is being taught right, we want to make sure all the different proper pieces of this course are being implemented and done properly. It's tied and tested since 2011, so we know it's working well, and we want it to continue working, getting better and better. It allows the training and the instructors to be audited, like I mentioned, and it's built by industry, right? And industry build it, and industry has driven it. And they're the ones that drive change. right? It's our committee that says, you know what, this is getting outdated, we need to correct this, correct that, no problem. That's what we do, because we can, it's easy. Only certified instructors are used, so you have to be a certified instructor through the BC Common Ground Alliance or through the provider that's been certified to do the course. They must be certain caliber of instructor, certain experience levels. Can be referred to other companies and practices and procedures. So people that have taken this course, there has been RFPs that have gone out there saying you need people who have had certain levels of training. So recognize BC Common Ground Alliance 3-day use specialist course has been completed, then we'll accept them. That type of thing. Those have gone out there several times. Out there we've seen them, and people have used them as part of their best practices and procedures, as you're not allowed that utility locate posting unless you've had this course. Right? You guys probably seen that yourselves within your own area. And also for procurement, like I just talked about, for BC bids and stuff like that, we're seeing that. Okay, so it's a good uptake. It's been around a while, so what we just want to do is we want to make it better. That's the whole idea. So really, this kind of hiatus, I would call it, with the COVID, gave us the time to rethink and restructure on how we need to apply this, and now we're coming out with everything going, ready to go. That's what we're doing now. And that's kind of why I thought this would be a good topic to talk about. So, anybody heard Applied Sciences, Technologists, and Technicians of BC? Excellent. Anybody know what, so we got probably a few CTECs, PNGs, CSOs, certified some people. Okay, so ASTDBC has adopted the Registered Utility Locate Technician. So it's an RULT. They have a provisional and they have the registered. So you can apply for it and build up towards that. Now saying that, it's still on their webpage, it's still being offered. I don't know what the status is right now because the UUL board hasn't met in a little while, and that board is the one that usually evaluates all the applicants. I know we have about 15 certified, probably 12 to 15 certified out there in the province right now that are RULTs. Okay, so this is a possibility. This is a competency. This is kind of, once you've taken the courses plus experience, this is where you can go to say, I am certified as an RULT. And a lot of, again, RFPs have used RLTs as the only ones they'll accept for locating on the TMX line, for instance. Okay. It's the first kind of it. No one else in the province, or no one else in Canada can say they certify utility locate instructors through a government body. Okay. I add that because there is one company out there, a private company, that's certifying locators. No offense, but as being part of government and being part of an association, I get nervous when private companies certify. Because private companies, what's their main goal? Make money. And when you're making money on a safety training, is that a good thing or a bad thing? It's a great thing. If you're the owner. So, yes. So that's the thing that worries us the most. And the requirements can be found at ASTTBC under the bylaws. So we know it's still there. It's still offered on the webpage. Okay. I don't think there's anybody here who has an RULT. No, I didn't recognize anybody. So, okay. So what the course is about. Basically, it contains, for those who haven't taken it, there's 7 modules in it, and we want to make sure most important module is, module 7 for us, because problem solving is it. When it comes to utility locating, problem solving is all about what it is, really. But it's the introduction to the damage prevention in British Columbia, who's what, who's who in the zoo, as per se, and then the locating system at BC. It is quite a bit different than Alberta. Alberta's very focuses on pipelines. Here, it's municipalities. Municipalities are 85, 90% of everything that we do here. Right, and they're complex because it's many different smaller companies putting stuff in the ground that we have to find, and some of those are not always reachable. Utilities infrastructure. We talk about the infrastructures, what they look like, how complex they can get. Fundamentals of electromagnetic locating. So we're going to talk about, basic electrical theory, how it applies to electromagnetism, how it applies to frequencies, and how we're utilizing that to pick up what we need to find what we want. Right? Understanding all that and giving your confidence in your tool is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to take whatever tool you bring us, we want you to be better at it and more comfortable using it. So you're not using our tool, just so everyone knows. I'm not selling you anything. I don't represent any company that sells. I look at all the different tools, and honestly, in my van, when I was locating, I had 6 different locators in there because all of them did a little something different for me. And that includes a metal detector and also include the TW6 split box. I don't know if you guys ever used a split box before. And those 2 were also part of my arsenal. Plus I had other ones, but we'll talk about locators when we get there. Safety and professionalism. We talk about, what's our real job as locators? What's our role and responsibility? Because it makes people nervous being a locator, right? You go out there and all of a sudden everyone focuses you as being the one to locate, and if you don't, who do they call when they see something in the ground when they dig that wasn't located? They call the locator. Now it's the locator's responsibility. So what does that look like? What's that role and responsibility? So we talk about that in the course. Records, maps, documentation where we can get it. Remember, accurate. WorkSafe BC says, must find it accurately. So we got to do the best we can with what we have to find it as accurately as possible, given the information we have. And then, of course, problem solving, like I said, which is usually a big one, too. Out of this course, I would say close to half of it is out doing it. Okay? So we talk about it. We talk about the theory. We get you to understand the theory, and then we go out and we practice and put it into practice, pardon me. Because most locators, we're hands-on people. Right? We're playing with a tool in our hands. Until it gets into our hands and we start using it, seeing what it's doing, and that is now making sense here. Now I'm starting to get it. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. So, objective of the course is to locate underground safely and efficiently, right? And apply those skills to regulatory and best practices. Okay, kind of makes sense so far? All right, what's new? Well, let's go backwards. Back in March 2019 to 2022, due to COVID, everything went virtual. Really hard to teach locating virtually. Really difficult. I tried. I took my locator. I went outside in the neighborhood. I had my phone rigged through Zoom. I was showing them through, through the video what I was doing. And, if anybody's seen what it looks like, it's a little narrow screen and it's moving around choppy like crazy. But I was trying to do the best I could to what I could attain, right? That was the tool we had left, because we were no longer allowed to go out there to actually physically do it. And it was good in some instances, but it's not in others, right? Because again, a lot of us are hands-on operators, right? We want to be able to touch it, feel it, for us to really know it's working. Back in June 2022, the Association of Pipeline, so CAPOLC, Utility Locate Contractors, is the one that's doing that Canadian standard. So that Canadian standard is in draft, and that Canadian standard is a best practices guide. And we'll talk a little bit about resources, and that's one of the resources that is going to be hopefully available to you guys as well. But that'll be coming out. And what recently has happened is that the BC Municipal Safety Association, everybody know who the BC Municipal Safety Association is? No? Everybody kind of knows. Who doesn't know who they are? Okay, excellent. So the BC Municipal, not saying it's excellent you don't know, but I'm saying that's excellent that somebody doesn't know so I can explain it. So BC Municipal Safety Association focuses, they actually, actually it's public knowledge so I can tell you. They get a little bit of stipend from the government. They get a little bit of money from WorkSafe BC to fund municipal training for provincial and municipal governments. And that training is very specific and is all around safety. And this is one of the technical safety around locating. Obviously a very high topic and priority. They haven't been so encouraged to do private because it's not part of their governance. Now it's part of their governance as of this month, actually. So we're talking like literally, we're just signing that deal this morning. That by contract will be offering utility locate training to both public and private through the same association. And what kind of value does that give you guys? So if you call BC MSA for public, you'll get training right away. They'll book it. It's pretty easy. Yes?
Sorry to interrupt, but is that for just this course, or is that for all the courses BC Safety Association?
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
just curious if that's for just this course or if it's for all the courses that association supplies or offers.
Both, I'm happy to say. They have 3 or 4 different utility locate courses, and they're encouraged to, they're actually going to be building more as the years go on. As what we've been trying to do is privately, KPU, Quality Polytechnic University, has offered it. The BC Construction Safety Association has offered it. But they stopped offering. KPU picked it up. They started offering it to KPU when I left KPU because I was the one who was running it. It came with me because KPU stopped running it when I left. We had another private company, Dragon 80 Group, that ran it for a little while. And now we're coming full circle, and BC MSA is now going to offer it for both. So they're basically, and this is a good thing because they have a dedicated staff to answer the phone. You call them, you pick it up, somebody's gonna answer, you'll be able to talk to somebody. What's the schedule look like? You know, can we get into locating? How can we do it? You'll have somebody to talk to. A lot of our smaller private groups, you know, we're working or we're teaching, so we can't always answer the phone. We have to get back to you. We have that delay. So we wanted something that was a bit more structured admin-wise. ECMSA has a very good admin structure, and they're a very dedicated team to do this. So publicly and privately, they're going to be offering the training. Yes?
I just wondered, is it international, so in Australia, if you went over there, or the UK,
Yep.
sometimes we work over there, would it be acceptable over there, or do we have to use their standards as well?
Good question. That would be something that BC Common Ground Alliance would have to take a look at to see if the course outline and structure is similar to ours to be accepted here. Chances are you might have to just go through our course, might be the easiest method to it. I would say that they're probably locating in Australia, for instance, or UK would be different than here, just based on our geographical nature and how we install things and how new and old things are. So they probably would say that you probably would have to retake the course here to be certified. That would be about it. I'd imagine it would be. But yeah, so both public and private anywhere in BC, and that is anywhere in BC. So they do a lot of training throughout the province of BC. If you want further than that, we can do that too. So we are basically going to be able to offer better quality same quality training, just more easier accessible. We're going to have more instructors, and we're going to have more bookings for it. So we don't want to say no. Let's put it that way. I need a course this fall for 8 guys. I want to say 99% of the time, yes. We got an instructor lined up. Okay, does that kind of make sense? So in the past, if you guys have taken utility locating, you probably know Brian Kidwell well. Agreed? Everyone knows who Brian Kidwell is. I know him. He's a very great guy. He's still doing the training. Don't get me wrong. All we're doing is, he's the chief instructor for the course. He's also one of the designers of the course, so perfect person to have in that. And he knows his stuff quite well. He's the chief instructor. We're adding more instructors. I'm one of those instructors. So I've worked with Brian for many, many years. So I'll be doing some of the training as well. And then we're going to be working on another instructor. And I'm not going to say he's in this room, but he's in this room. So, yeah. So that's basically what we're going towards, is we're trying to get some better offerings. Yes?
How often should you take the course?
Great.
10 years ago?
Great question.
I use it quite a bit, so.
Yeah. So if you want to look at WorkSafe BC, doesn't have a regulation based on that. But what they do have is a strong guideline. And the basic of strong guidelines is depending on what you do on a daily basis. If you're a daily locator, like if you locate every single day, and it's something part of your core work, then 3 years, you should have at least a refresher. Okay? And that's the same thing with confined space, excavation work, anything like that if you're in that business. If you're only locating periodically, and you're expected to locate, that varies depending on your company's system. What is their policies and procedures around that, and what do they want you to do? Most of the chances they'll say is, if you're a part-time locator, they want to make sure that your skills are kept up. They'll send you to, maybe more regular courses. Or if you suddenly, one of the guys is sick, I need to take over, hey, we'll send you this course, we'll get you updated, take 3 days, and then you can go and locate. So that may be what they do, but they'll be within their own requirements. So generally, that's kind of where they sit, but there's no clear definition of yes, no. I wish there was, but there isn't. It's still a guideline. Okay. Any questions so far, other than that? I like the questions. I like keep coming.
One more.
Yes.
Do you,
Oh, Mike, sorry.
do you cater your course based on the equipment that one company or outfit has?
So based on, do I cater my course to to one type of equipment? That's your question, right? Absolutely not. I'll train you in anything you own. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Because I know there's guys out here. There's guys that probably prefer rigid. Some guys prefer RDs. Some guys prefer Metrotex or Vivax. Some guys prefer 3M Dantel, I should say. Dantel. Did I say that right? Dantel.
What about witching?
Some people like witching. So interesting question, right? I actually thought Witching was a voodoo thing when I first started getting into locating. I said, there's no way. How could there be any type of, reality to this? But believe it or not, it does work off of magnetism and the body's magnetism and your frequency to the earth. Believe it or not, it actually is science behind it. So I researched it, and yeah, it works for certain people, but not for everyone. So you gotta believe, yeah. So, but it does work off of magnetism. It actually does work. It works very well with water. That's really what it's designed for, because as the magnetism and the frequencies come from the earth, the water affects it in a different way, causes these things to move. So.
I just use a golf ball for water.
Yeah, a golf ball for water. Mine does too. It always seems to find water.
Ron, just a reminder, we got about 100 people playing online, so
Excellent.
they don't hear the questions. So if you don't mind repeating them,
Okay.
or if you guys hold your hand, I'll be happy to hand you the mic. But we got 100 people that aren't getting half the joke.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And my big apologies to everyone out there. I'm sorry. I will repeat the question. I think I just did with the last one because I was starting to get that. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so that's basically what's new. And this is kind of, so I've basically gone through the BC Congress Online to kind of have a basic idea what they do. Where to go? BC Municipal Safety Association. You need training? Call them up. Okay, call them up, ask them, hey, I need training. This is what I want. Ron told me so. There you go. You can also contact me directly. I'll put my information up on the last slide, and you're more than happy to contact me. Yes, question?
Yeah, we got another question that's online here.
Yeah.
Hi, this is from Rob Fielder. Hi, Ron. When utilizing the latest utility locating equipment and technology, what would you estimate the maximum locating depth to be when attempting to locate a transmitting sonde?
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 Yep.
Under ideal ground conditions, of course.
I know he's doing this just to poke me. Yeah, and was that Rob Felder? Or? Felder? Okay. Hi, Rob. He's one of my instructors back in the city days. So in case you're wondering where this is all coming from, he's probably laughing right now. He was probably laughing as he was typing this out. He can call me later, Rob. I'll give you the answer then. That's a good way to cop out, isn't it? So doing a sonde, deep sonde, doing a utility, ground conditions are perfect. I mean perfect. Quick. Today's equipment, based on locators I got here right now, anywhere from 10 to 14 feet, I've had enough of a signal. I felt confident enough to say, yes, that's it. But is the perfect world there? Do we know what's in between everything? We don't. So, I always say push a little further, let me do it again. Push a little further, let me do it again. Pull it back this time, let me do it again. Pull it back another 3 feet, let me do it again. Push it again 6 feet. And only after I do all of those steps, well, am I going to say, okay, I think I know where it is. But do I ever say, that's it? Nah, if I can't see it, touch it, feel it, it doesn't exist until it's uncovered or unburied or dug up, right? So, but sondes are usually pretty accurate. They're a good way to do, say, storm, SANI, any type of pipe that's deep underground that's non-metallic. PVC if it's deep, but usually they're shallow. You have a question?
Can you send a single operator, or do you have to come up to a...
So do I have to send the signal to the operator? So a sonde is basically...
Can you send a single operator to a class, or do you have to send your instructor to a municipality?
maybe ask with the mic again if you don't mind. Thank you.
Can you send a single operator to one of your classes, or do you have to send an instructor to a municipality?
We're working on both. So we're going to start opening classes up, probably starting, I'm hoping, this spring. Well, I'd like to see one this fall, but we still have to have some meetings at BC Municipal Safety Association around the dates. We're going to start setting dates and locations, and then people can go in and we'll have a per person fee, and you can just register one person. That's generally how we're going to do it, and we're probably going to expand it from there. We don't know how it's going to expand, but we're hoping to expand it from there, because I go all over the province, and every time I go to a certain area, and I know it's a remote area, I usually contact the public works people or anybody there in the area, says, hey, do you have any contractors, anybody else, or yourselves that want to take this course? I might have 2 or 3 spots open. I got another company doing it up there. Hey, let's fill the class up. Right? That's what I try to do, depending on who I know. I've been somewhat successful with that. Not always, but somewhat successful with that. So one was really successful. But Depends. So that is the idea, yes. I hope I answered Rob's question until he comes up with another type one. You'll say, you're wrong, it's 16 feet. I got one at 16.
I
Yes.
just had a quick question.
Yep.
It was a few weeks ago, we were doing a dig on a main line, and I was confirming the depth. And I was confirming the depth at 6 feet, and I did the lift test, and I could tell it was about a foot, and it went up a foot. But when we actually did the dig down, we did it with a hydrovac, and it was 4 feet.
Yep.
So, I mean, that was the first time that's really happened to me where it was off that much. Is there another way, with a rigid, is there another way that I could confirm depth?
Okay. Excellent question. I get this one asked often. I'll go from my personal experience. I will never give out depth, period. Why? Because I don't know. My machine says, the manufacturer says, yes, it can, but there's too many things, variables in the way. Like anything metallic in the ground can play with that signal, and suddenly it's not accurate. There are ways to get more accurate. I'd say that your depth accuracy in the best conditions, equipment says yes, confirmed it, did it a couple times, yeah, would say about 90% effective. But there's always that 10% factor because we don't know what's in the ground. And it's just like you said. I've done it so many times. Oh yeah, it's 3 feet down here. And then we dig it down, it's 2.5. And it's like, well, what happened? So I never give out depth, ever. I look at depth. But what's the most important reason why you want to see depth? Because I always say if I give depth to even a foreman, I guarantee, and I did it once, and I won't do it again. I'm not going to mention his name. I really want to, though. I'm not going to mention his name, but he looked over my shoulder and he saw 26 inches when I did a depth check. And he said, oh, 26 inches, eh? And I said, no, don't go by that. And he said, well, that's what your machine says. I said, you have to hand dig and expose it before. Do not try to dig down to get it because it's probably wrong. I got a phone call 2 days later says, you're wrong, it's 24. Why? Because my machine dug down and hit it. Okay, so I just will not give it away anymore. I refuse to give it away. However, depth measurement is really important, and especially for gas lines, a lot of service lines, sometimes lateral lines underneath the road when they've done some type of molding or any other trenchless method. I will sometimes get it literally bouncing off the pavement, going back down, coming out at 2.5 feet and going through the exit or entrance ditch at 2.5, exit ditch at 2.5, but yet it bounced off the road. And so right at the road level, boom, it's only inches. So the odd time, if it's less than a foot or less than 18 inches, I'm going to let my operator know that this one is real shallow. So that's what I won't tell them the depth. So it's really, there shouldn't be any real reason you'd want the depth anyway, because in most cases, we got to hand dig and expose. So as soon as you give the depth, that just means the operator, I don't have to hand dig. Right? And that's just a bad way to start. It's all bad. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah, it's just, we just don't know what's in between. That's the biggest problem with locating. And I've had some interesting jobs. We can probably all talk about jobs, and I can talk about my jobs, but that will kind of take away from most of the stuff. So we're going to get into a little bit. So that's kind of that portion of it is kind of, if you need information, I'll hand out my information. BCMSA is the place you want to go to call and get the courses. If you have a favorite provider and they've done a really good job and you're happy with it and you don't want to take a 3D course, you want to take something else they do, hey, by all means. As long as it's good training, you guys are happy with it, I'm an absolute great promoter of it. Please do. But I'm just letting you guys know that that's where the courses are going to reside and where they're going to improve. Okay. So I thought, let's do a little one-on-one and talk about challenges that you guys have and that we've had. So who here has never used a locator? Okay, so we got a few people. Okay. So locators come in many different forms, many different challenges. So we're going to talk about, what locator do I use? It's one of my favorite questions too. They always ask, well, which one's better? It's interesting because I used to carry almost one of everything. Can I locate fiber, ABS, PVC? Well, it depends. Your machine can locate it. It always does. You don't want it to, though. So I always say there's got to be another way. And we use SONs, like it was mentioned already, and we use fish tape and stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about that. What causes distortion? I love this one. Like as if we can just label what distortion is. Distortion's interference. What's interference? Oh, there's lots of things. Rainy, what's a better day to locate? A sunny day, hot and dry, or a rainy day? Interesting, isn't it? You can locate the rain, but I'm usually pumping up my frequencies. And they're scattering all over the place, but I'm trying to filter between them. But in dry days, I always carry water with me. Water is my great for my ground, onto my ground, and boom. Suddenly my singles go way up, my strength goes up, and then suddenly I can locate a lot easier. Little things like that. So grounding, that's always a good thing too. Grounding, where do I put my ground rod? What's the best place? There's an interesting one. You get to force your signal the direction you want it to go based on your knowledge. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. And frequencies, what frequency do I use? Anybody here use multiple frequencies, or do you guys just use one frequency? Nobody wants to answer that question? It all depends, right? I use multiple. I have 6 frequencies I go through the band. Start low, move high, right? Just your basic golden rule. And we'll talk about those. But first thing we got to talk about is, well, what do these things do? So we have locators. I've got 2 of them here. I'd say these are, other than 3M and rigid, these are some of the 2 more popular ones. Which ones do I prefer? I'll talk to you about what each of them and what each quality has, okay? Each has their own certain specific one they like. I got one guys that swear up and down by the 3M. I'm not using anything else. That's great. It's a locator. Well, hey, let's just show you how to use it then, right? I'm not saying that these 2 are the best ones out there, but I'll tell you which one's a little easier to use for the new people. And these are more easier to use for new people. That's true because these have circuit boards built into them that take out a lot of the distortion and issues. They take out some of the null, they take out some of the feedback, and they make it simple for you to use. And you can set it to simple, or you can set it to full, peak and null mode if you want. You can go crazy. It's your choice on how you set this up. Okay, so I like those things. And my next question is maintenance. How easy is it to maintain? What does it cost if I have a problem? How many times do I need to recalibrate this? Those are good questions. Because if you own it up in Fort St. John and you need to get one fixed, I'm not saying anybody in Fort St. John has problems, but somebody in Fort St. John has problems, you need to know where to get these. 3Ms? Who has 3M still? Who wants to admit they're still using the 3M? Dandel. It's great locator, but a lot of them are over time, aren't stored properly, aren't put in the right place, aren't put in a nice warm, are wet, allowed to stay wet in their trucks overnight in cold weather, and the circuitry in here starts to wear, and we get all kinds of problems. Right? Coils around the magnet start to deteriorate and build up with all kinds of things, that aren't good for the use of it. Right? So maintaining these things is really important. Now, everybody's going to look at it and say, this thing looks so new. How could you possibly be locating something like that? It's brand new. Doesn't know anything about it. Come on, you guys got to be thinking about this. No? I'm thinking about it because I just walked in here and I put these locators down and go, geez, these things look brand new. Guess what? They are. Because my poor old 4000 finally bit it and I didn't want to give it up. And finally Brian says, you got to give it up. So I handed it to him and he handed me back this one. And I've used this one a couple times now and it's actually pretty good. But I like my 4000 and that's just me. I like my 4000. Does that make any sense? So it's got all the marks on it. So, it has a mark down on here, when I kind of hit a car, a little electric car that was running by there. I was, kind of drawn over by the passing electric car. No, you ever seen that? You guys are all focused on your locating and all like something pulls you in that direction. You just go there without thinking and the car zips by and you smack it on the tire or the rim. Am I the only one that's done that? Also standing in the intersection with a red light, but it turned green. I didn't notice because I was focusing on this. Now am I starting to get a few things? Oh, everybody's been there once, or we're not supposed to be there, but here we are standing in the middle of the intersection. There's a green light, cars are honking, and you're going, uh-oh. Right? Anyway. So I got a new one, and then I bought this one a little while ago because I wanted to try it out. I've tried them out in different places, and I liked them, so I thought, what the heck. Rigids, I've used them long before I use these. So if you like technical and you like detail, rigid is the way to go. The rigid doesn't give you any funny business. It just gives you everything. You have to decipher how to read it and how to figure it out. That's what the rigid does. So there's no computer chip in there to make it easier. Okay, anybody here swear on rigids? Yeah, and they work. They pick up the littlest blip, and it's up to you to decipher how that littlest blip, what it is, and how it works, and how it relates to what you're picking up. So is it better? Well, it's not really any better than these ones. It's just different, right? So I see a lot of guys that are technical-minded tend to gravitate to the rigid SR24 or 20. Those tend to be the 2 or more popular ones. Some guys, you guys probably have the Scout, I think it's called, as well, right? So, and that's fine. They do the same job, but they also don't take out the ghost signals, which these ones do. So your ghost signal can lead you in the wrong direction if you're not paying attention. Before you know it, you're thinking that's the utility. Well, in actual fact, that's a ghost signal, right? So you got to be able to understand your instrument as you play with it. So we got the rigid out there. I got a transmitter, which transmit the signal. So there's different types of locating, as we already know. So direct connect is our best way to locate. Agreed? We direct connect to something. We use the box. We have the cables in there. We put our grounding rod in the ground, connect to a ground. We connect the positive or the negative. Which one? Doesn't really matter because it just turns the signal around, right? It makes the signal go directional, right? So you get to do what you want it to do, and this is part of what we do in locating is we want to force it to do what we want it to do. We don't want the machine to do it, and then we got to figure it out. I like the other way around. So, but anyway, most of the time we put the black on the negative, red on the utility, that's metal, right? And then now that we've lit it up, as we per se, is we put a signal through it, and it has a frequency in it, we can now take our receiver, which is an antenna, and all it does is pick up frequencies. Are these things sensitive? Yeah. Yeah, it all depends on how you set it up, right? They're super sensitive. How many frequencies do we have running around us?
Too many.
Yeah, way too many. We're bombarded by frequencies, radio frequencies, cell phone frequencies, everything, Wi-Fi, everything out there is flying around in the air. Like you can imagine, I would say probably, I'm just going to take a guess. We've probably got thousands and thousands of frequencies flying around us at any given point in time. More so here, where we're standing right now, than say out in the valley. Just because, well, everybody's probably got Wi-Fi here and everything else, so that's another frequency. But these things are sensitive, super sensitive. They can detect, I can detect power lines, transmission lines from a kilometer away on this thing. If I'm on a pipeline, and the pipeline runs underneath a transmission line, I can detect that small amount of electricity and frequency that hits that line and goes down that line kilometers down the road, right? If you have it set up right and you know what to look for, right? So far so good. Anybody else? Somebody else must have done that. I've watched a water main go right underneath the transmission line. It's a cool power setting. Hey, woohoo, it's right here, right? Didn't even have to hook up. But am I 100% accurate? No. Even then, I still direct connect just in case, just to confirm what I already know. But that's what we do. Phone, does it say on frequency? Oh, tons of it, right? Even now, it's supposed to be on, oh here, let's turn on, silent mode. I've turned it off, I push a button, it's a black screen, it's not doing anything, right? Are you kidding? It's telling somebody up there that something's going on, that somehow someone's presenting at some EOCP conference, I can hear them talking on the phone. No? It's always transmitting. And I got it on a bit of sensitivity, but so just doing a passive mode sweep on a radio signal coming from a cell phone. So they're sensitive instruments. How to set them up, that's the key. How to know how to use your instrument to do the right settings is the key to becoming a better locator. Agreed? And your ground, that helps too. So the different thing, and then of course the clamp. So really, ultimately, direct connect is the best. Clamp is the next. And then after clamp, then we start to using induction, right? That's our kind of our last thing. Induction, I always recommend guys in pipelines, hey, if you're out there in the middle of nowhere, you got no place to connect, use induction, it's simple, right? Chances are, it's a 10-foot main. How much variability do you want? There's a huge clear-cut swath of no trees. Pretty evident it's there. When I hear guys out, and I hope there's no pipeline guys here, when I hear pipelines going out there, I've been locating for 20 years, I'm excellent at it. But he's only located that pipeline all his life. Sorry, dude. Great on you. Let's help you do some municipal stuff. Let's have some fun in town, So locators, if you take all the locators, I'm going to do a quick 101 here. What do I got for time? Anybody know? Okay, 5-2. So I got some time. So all locators, they look good. We got the yellow one, the blue one, we got the red one. They all come in different, not usually comes in yellow and red. So we got different colored ones, right? They all do the same thing, okay? They all have antennas, similar places, right? You have antenna coils here, upper and lower, so you can get depths, distance, and some can triangulate, right? This one is called a directional receiver. That's not a directional receiver. Actually, that one's a directional receiver. This one is not a directional receiver. This one can receive in any direction, which means you can spin it and it will still pick up the same signal. In fact, it'll give you a line to where it is. Agreed? Yeah, this one doesn't like to do that. So this is a directional, which means if I'm on a main here and I'm using this one, it'll tell me no problem. As soon as I go this way, it's gone, disappeared, there's nothing there, because the antennas aren't configured for it. So knowing your instrument helps you know what to locate. That's why I have one of these in my truck. Because if I need to locate a bunch of utilities going in all weird directions and I'm direct connected, I want this thing to tell me when it turns a corner, because this one's not very good at it. This one just fades off. Well, wait a minute. It was here a minute ago, right? And then I turn it, you know, then it starts to make sense, right? This one, very similar. Antennas, similar configuration, okay, does similar things, right? They all do very similar frequencies. The difference in these cases is this one here is called a maintenance-free model, which means I calibrate it internally, okay? Which means if I want certain frequencies, I set it up, okay? I kind of like that. Certain frequencies. Everybody here has a certain frequency you like. Agreed? Not everyone likes that frequency. I like to start at 8K. I know guys that start a lot 510. Okay. You know, start at a lower frequency. That's fine by me too. Some guys start at 1. You know, some guys jump right to 33 and then move on. And other guys, you know, only locate on 33. Rod Felder. So there's, you know, depending, that'll put some comment in the writing, I'm sure. He probably is texting back already saying, I use other frequencies. So it really depends on what you have. Your clamp, which is the other piece to the puzzle, basically is set on just one frequency. Right? Your clamp is there, so if you direct connect is 1, your induction is 1, but your clamp is there when you can't do either. Right? Your clamp is better than induction. Right? If you can clamp onto something in the ground or down a pole or something like that, that's going to be your best bet. Right? Because that's the next best thing to do, but direct connect is always going to be better. And then you got, that's your active system. Then you have the passive system. And your passive system is your power sweep, your radio sweeps. Those are just your sweeps with nothing connected, no, just the receiver out there doing the job. Right? So a good locator. So if a good locator on a job spends 2 hours on a job, how much does he actually spend on a machine locating? A good locator. More and more experience. Think about all the experienced guys you know. After a while, very little. I only use this to confirm what I already know, or at least I think I know. Because after a while, you start to get the same ideas. Mains are always generally in the same area. Okay, there's a gas meter over there. The gas main's right here in the boulevard. I see the meter on the side of the house. Chances are it's probably pretty straight. Chances are it's probably here. So this just confirms what I think I know already. Agreed? So it becomes even easier, especially in municipalities. When you've worked in your municipality for a long time, you get to know where everything is. Rob Feller. So this is new, just like that. See, I'm really teasing him now. He's going to call me. I know he is. And I'm going to get it, by the way, just so you know, because he knows a lot more than I do. So those are basically your basic instruments. Does that kind of make sense to you guys that already done it? It's not a big deal, but a few people hopefully that haven't. This is kind of at least give you an idea. So going back to what's better, it depends on your personal. So what I like to do is I bring these to my training. And I bring more if I can. And if somebody doesn't have one, they can use one of these. Now, I'm not trying to sell them. All I'm doing is I'm providing an extra utility locator for that. I'm not going to use the rigids because they require training, special training. When I have people use rigids, I got to take them aside and we got to talk about how to use it before we start locating. This one here, I can just turn it on and go, here, go, because it's simple. Okay? I like simple. So if it's plug and play, I'm there. If I got to think too much, depends on what kind of mood I'm in. If I'm in a good mood and I really want the technical, I'll go right for the rigid and I'll go for, let me have it all. Let me figure this out, especially downtown, you know, laneways, all that kind of fun stuff. Then you really get to play, right? Okay. So I got a question, cost. So what's the cost? Honestly, they're all around the same price. So they're not that far different. Rigids are pretty expensive, right? And you buy so think about a full kit. Probably retails anywhere from about $55 all the way up to about $7,000. Somewhere in there. That's a full kit. So that should come up with a small case, locator, transmitter, clamp, and a grounding rod. Okay, so somewhere in there. The receivers, if you buy pieces individually, it all varies. Now, here's an interesting question. I'm kind of glad you brought that up because can I use a different transmitter and a different receiver? Or do I have to use the same transmitter with the same receiver manufacturer? Sorry? Same?
I think you'd have to use the same.
You would, yeah, you would think. But the interesting part is that it really doesn't matter, because all it does is put a frequency in the ground, you're just receiving it. So if your receiver receives it and your transmitter transmits it, that's it. So it doesn't really matter, but it kind of does also in very small ways. And only if that's 1 watt, 5 watt, 10 watt receivers, small receivers. Some receivers aren't built for low wattage. Maybe that's the best way to say it. You know, some of these ones here, like this, like not this model. This model isn't. This model can use 1, 5, or 10 watt. But some models will only use the 5 watt or 10, but won't use the 1. They don't have enough sensitivity, so they won't pick it up from the 1. So that's the only thing you got to think about. But other than that, it doesn't really matter. So when I go out, I take the receivers. I don't take a transmitter, because the people I'm training, somebody has a transmitter on the other side. I use theirs, as long as I can receive that signal. That's all I'm worried about. So I make sure they all do. Any other questions on product? Because really, it just comes to personal experience.
Well, there's product for in a wide variety, like in a kilometer, for a water system, like a main pipe.
Yep.
I know there's systems that are cost up to $100,000, right?
To locate water systems? Is that what you're saying?
Like leaks.
Oh, leak detection. Oh, okay, leak detection. Leak detection. Leak detection is a lot fussier way of doing things. You can use this equipment. There's other equipment, obviously, that we can use too, right? Sounding systems and stuff like that, or my old-fashioned bar in your phone. That's how I found out how something works. But I like the listening devices too. You know, the different songs that you can put around and try to locate it. These things have that capability. Most of the guys I know that did a lot of leak detection, I didn't do a lot, I did some, but not a lot, generally didn't use these for leak detection, and with the A-frames and the attachments, right? Not saying it doesn't do it, but we have equipment out there designed specifically for it. This equipment is designed for something else, but can also do this. You know what I'm saying? So if you want really good leak detection equipment, you buy really good leak detection equipment. If you want a locator to locate it, then you know you're going to get a good leak detection, but it may not be the greatest, because there's other equipment out there that can do better. That kind of give you an idea? Yeah.
Which one of these companies, in your experience, gives you better service?
That's the good part. They all give you a little bit. They all give you, so he's asking, you know, which company gives better service? 3M is difficult now because there's no representative that I know of in BC anymore that can look after your 3M, so you have to ship it to the States. I know that. Radar detection, there's lots of people that sell it around there. They usually give you good, I always say what's good customer service is if I have a problem, I bring it in and they give me a loaner. That's good customer service. Until it's fixed, then they give me back and we swap back. That's good customer service. These guys will do that. These guys will do that. This is a more maintenance-free model. But it's a little different to work with. It's a little different. It's got a few different functions that this one doesn't have.
The radio detection is the maintenance-free, more maintenance-free, is that what you said?
This is the more maintenance-free.
Okay.
There's a history behind radar detection and Vivax, but you'll have to find that out from the providers because they used to work together. Now they don't. If you're looking at like maintenance-free, the rigid, you've got providers that can fix it in town. There's a couple guys that can fix them. Same thing with these three. So I'd say out of these three models, it wouldn't matter that much. But if you got anything like the 3M or anything else that's maybe not as well known, it's a question you have to ask is, you know, who do I take it to get fixed? And how long is that turnover? And do I get a loaner? Those are the questions you need to ask. So if I ever say if you're purchasing one or looking at one, or if you've got a 3M or you've got any other one that hasn't been calibrated in a while, because this thing needs to be calibrated as per manufacturer, you know, I think it's 5-10 years. Sometimes it'll go longer, depends on how it's cared for. But, and since I'm mentioning care, that's the biggest thing. How much time do I got? Okay, I'm doing okay. I got to double check. The biggest thing is maintenance too on these things. If you take care of your locator, keep it in a warm environment, allow it to dry overnight, never keep it wet, are these waterproof or are they water resistant? Resistant, definitely not proof, right? And they're full of electronics. There's a whole circuit board that runs along the whole back of this thing. And if that gets a little moisture in it, what happens to the circuit board? We already know. It's not going to be good, right? Same thing. Do you take your computer, put it outside, and leave it outside in the rain? You shouldn't with this either. Earlier versions, we didn't have to worry about. They're simple. These are not simple. These are computerized now. Okay, and that goes for that one as well. And some of these ones have a circuit board into it. Some, just small circuit board. Okay, so we just have to think if we have to keep these things dry and we have to keep them in good shape. Yes?
So I know you're not the presidential press secretary, you don't need to put you on the spot, but in
It's
your
okay.
experience, because you've used them all,
Yep.
which one would you recommend for service?
For service, I'd say all three of these are fine. They all service them around the same. I lean a little bit more towards these two more so than rigid because rigid I ask for a loaner and they never give me one. I always get a loaner from these guys and I always get a loaner from these guys. So I go for what I know and I trust. Because usually if you're a full-time locator, you can't work without it, right? So that's always my thing. I don't just want to know how much it costs. I want to know, are you going to be able to service it and are you going to give me a loaner and it's going to be an adequate loaner. If I got a 7200, don't give me a 2000, right? So yeah. So that's kind of the 101 on that part. Make sense? Yeah. Okay. So can I locate fiber, ABS, PVC? If it's a metallic object and it's a conductor, yes. If it doesn't have a conductor built into it, doesn't have a wire inside it, and there's no metal whatsoever in it, then not traditional way. Agreed? 2 minutes? Oh, question, sorry.
Sorry, we're trying to get the questions. We're saving some for the end, but
Yep.
this one seems to be a bit more on track. When using the line tracer, is it best to have the base over the utility, and if so, in line or close proximity? Also, how far away should the ground be?
So I assume using induction.
He does not say.
Does not
He
say.
does not say.
Because that would depend on that's a two-man sweep. That all depends on the alignment, depends on if there's any break, if it's straight, depends on its depth, if it's wet. And ground? Could you maybe read the question, sorry, one more time? Thanks, Eric.
Here we go. When using line tracer, is it best to have the base over the utility? And if so, in line or close proximity? Also, how far away should the ground be?
Okay, so ground should be, okay, so let's go right back. So if you got let's say we got a main right here. Let's say we've got a valve right here that we can attach to. Okay, we'll make it really simple. If you're going to attach to it to a direct connect, right, you're going to connect this positive, the ground, you want generally at a 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle away. So basically, that's your angle that you want. You want to locate that way, you put the ground approximately 10 to 15 feet away, 10 feet, go a little further, see what the gain is on your machine, see if it's a better signal. Really anywhere in that area is okay. Like you can 5-foot circle in that area is adequate. And that will help you if you're going to locate that way. What that'll do is if you've got a nice 90-degree right angle to it, it's going to allow 50% of your power going that way, 50% going that way. But if it's not going that way, it's going to send it all that way. Makes sense. You can move it a little bit, approximately 10 degrees, and gain 70% this way, 30% that way, so you can actually get more gain going that way. But if you go a little bit further, you're going to close the loop, and then suddenly you're not going to get the ground. If you move it too close to the utility, you're going to close a loop in here, and then it's only going to trickle down the main. So there's a very fine line between where that ground goes in proximity to the main going this way. If that makes sense. The ground 10 feet away is traditional, 10, a little bit longer, 12 sometimes, some guys use. Some have seen 8. They all work. You have to figure out by trying it to see what works best based on the moisture of the ground. Really is what it's going to tell you if it's going to be a good ground or not. You're going to know as soon as you shove it in the ground, right? Usually the question I ask is, can I use a 4-foot rod over that little 1-footer? The 1-footer is there because we're allowed to go 1 foot without hitting utility, we hope, because we got to think about that. Terrible when you're out there to find a utility and your grounding rod strikes it. I'm not saying that's ever happened, but Rob knows somebody who's done that. So, wasn't me. Although if I did it, hey, I'd admit it. But I haven't done that. And I'll say I haven't done that yet, because I'm sure I will one day by accident. So I hope that kind of answers that question. Okay. So it really depends on your machine. Some machines have a different grounding system, so you can go further or less. Some receiver or transmitters are a little higher powered. You can change that. Okay. So whatever the manufacturer suggests is what you go with. Okay. So moving forward, we got about 10 minutes left, I think, before we have to start going through a lot of questions. Maybe 15 the most. Okay. Yeah, that's what we say. 210. 230, 245, 245 were you good till? Okay. So locating non-metallic, pretty hard, right? Fibers going in the ground. What I've learned from a lot of the fibers being installed over the province of BC is that 40% has been installed without any type of tracer wire. Okay, that's a problem. Now, should they? Absolutely. The Act states, the Communications Act states that any type of installation must have a means of tracing that line, period. But how many Communication Act inspectors are out there making sure that that work is being completed? I've never heard of anybody. So that's the problem, right? So that same thing, if I say tomorrow, hey guys, there's no speed limit, you can go as fast as you want. Is everybody here going to do the speed limit that was posted yesterday? Not me, man. I want to see how fast my car can go. No? Isn't that what that means? That means let's just go, right? So if there's nobody enforcing it, there's really no rules, and that's the problem. So now we got to find it, and the fiber is a difficult one. Old fiber, believe it or not, made enough static electricity you can pick it up with a real fine instrument. But the new stuff is too damn efficient. It's too well sealed. Some of them have sheaths. If they do, perfect. If it's a metal sheath, yes, because I can make that work. I can find it, as long as it has metal in it. Okay, just means I have to change up how I'm going to do it, right? So PVC, same thing. Any of those type of pipes, if there's no metal in it, then the only other way of doing it is to send in a metal fish tape, right? Slide that fish tape in there, or I've seen some guys that are really creative and have actually used a vacuum. No kidding, a shop vac to find a PVC line. Okay? What they did is they put a big cotton ball at one end, they stuffed it down the 4-inch pipe so it was a little bit tight, and then they reversed their shop vac to blow, and then left on a loose spiel, like a loose wire, very thin wire, and let it run. It was a great idea. It goes around corners, goes around everything, just keeps going, as long as, of course, there's no break in the pipe, right? And it kept going until it hit a box, obviously. That's where it ended. That's what they're doing. They're blowing to the next box. And then they take your, again, direct connect, right? You got negative, positive, or clamp onto your metal line, and then they go out there and trace it like they normally would. If you could connect it if you want, you just have to find a ground. If you're on the pavement in the middle of the road, you're not going to find a ground. Or you can just throw it on the ground. Sometimes that works. Sorry, jetter? Yeah, you connect your jetter. You can use sondes on the end of your jetter. We've done that before. Tape a sonde on, send it through the jetter for a hydrovac, send it through the jet system, right? Jet flushing system. Yeah, so there's lots of different ways to do it. So just think of how you're going to put metal into there, or Fisher tape. I've seen you guys just, because it's structured, it's hard, it's rigid. You can push it, and generally it'll keep going. That's a quick, fast, easy way, and that's what you have in the picture there. Okay, does that kind of make sense? Other than that, if it's not metal, we can't detect it. Then it goes to GPR. Now we're doing ground penetrating radar, and we're scanning the ground, and we're looking for any anomaly, which is not always perfect either.
I got some of those little rigid sondes you can flush down the toilet and stuff.
Yeah.
And I find it works pretty well.
So you're the one running down the street, chasing it. I'm just teasing. You're right, those things do work. Yeah, except for getting them back sometimes. Sometimes difficulty. Yeah, we've done bigger ones too, and we've lost one. So finding bigger pipe, but that's a good point. Yeah, so you can do flushables as well. Yeah. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. Distortion. I love this topic. We could talk all day on distortion. So many things will cause distortion. The biggest thing is that we can't see it. So it can be ground. Like what's the configuration inside the ground? What's the dirt? If it's universal all the way through, like on a roadway, we're pretty close to saying, yeah, we're consistent. We know we're going to have road mulch, approximately 2 feet of road mulch, maybe 4 feet, and then we're probably going to have some type of sand or backfill. So we know it's probably not going to contain metallic. So we're probably safe in most of those cases. So on a roadway, we're generally, if it's a newer roadway, we're going to have an idea what's in the ground, so we can locate accordingly. When we get into older places, older systems, boulevards, especially boulevards, we don't know. There's no rules around backfilling in a boulevard. And I've seen lots of contractors just dump their garbage in the boulevard, bury it, and that includes metal. You know, and then later on we're here trying to locate it, and we've got, you know, our signals going all over the freaking place. you know, and it's not helping. So those things cause distortion. Too much moisture in the ground causes distortion, right? Because if there's lots of moisture in the ground, is moisture a conductor or is it an insulator? Water is a conductor, right? So it will blow, it'll scatter the signal, right? So it makes it difficult. You can still pick it out depending on your frequency. You can try low frequencies, but generally I try high, and spill actually sometimes is more effective. I actually like to use 200. A lot of guys don't use 200 to locate. I start at 8. If I can't get it, 33. If I still can't get it, I'm going to jump right to 200. I'm going to let it rip. And then I'm going to play with my receiver a lot more on my sensitivities, and then I can pick through what isn't and what is. Sometimes easier. It just depends. And that's in wet ground. When it comes into other things, well, you know, it just depends. But distortion's always the thing. Grounding, bad ground, also could distort the signal. Misplaced ground, you know. I sometimes use the flashing on a house or the fence, or a steel fence or a chain link fence. There are lots of things that we can use as a ground. All we have to do is think about the pattern of what's happening in the ground and where that signal is going. Because the signal is going to go from that utility. If you got the positive on there, it's going to run to the negative, right? Positive goes to negative, right? So the signal is going to go to the negative and then back up, and that's going to do a circular pattern. And then hopefully, if you push enough of it down the pipe, it'll keep going if the pipe is a good conductor. If it's not a good conductor, you're going to get less going down the line. So the size of your main, the amount of metal, all that makes a difference. This is exciting stuff, I can tell. Right after lunch, I was like, oh, what am I doing here? Right? That's a rough one. See, that's why I didn't eat lunch. That was my secret. I'm going to be damn hungry after this, though. So it really depends on your signal. It depends on how you're connecting. It depends on what's in the ground. It depends on if there's more than one utility. You know, my favorite water mains, you know, there's this 3rd generation water main in the ground. Where's the 1st and 2nd? Probably right beside it. And they're not on the map in some cases. So now we're guessing and we're wondering, well, why are signals going all over the place? Because all it takes is one copper line or one main to touch somewhere, and that signal goes through. And now suddenly it's all over the place. And suddenly you're on the old main when you thought you were on the new. I've been led around like that many times, thinking something's wrong here. Go all the way back. Wait a minute. So I always say, too, is if we're going to walk and do our signal, if we're going to walk with it, actually, distortion is caused by lots of different things. That's one of them. And I'll talk about line walking in a second. But these instruments are used to work this way. Okay? They're not used to work this way. Okay? This isn't locating. I don't know what this is. Maybe the circus might like it, but this isn't locating. Locating is up and down, holding it open, letting the system stay flat and accurate. I sometimes grip it a little bit. So, and when I locate a long line, I don't go beep and draw and put a mark on the road, and then go around and then come back and do another beep over there 30 feet away and put a mark on the road and say that's straight. Because is it? I don't know. I know it's here and I know it's there. That's all I know. The rest of it is just speculation. So I walk my line like this. Okay? And I make sure I use the right type of steel toe boots. I had one of the junior guys. This is great. I got it. Yeah, you got your steel toe. Good job. So you got steel toe interferes with the signal. Actually, it doesn't show the signal. But anyway, but you locate it. You want to keep you away from the steel, right? You want to keep away. Some people use those other steel toes now. You can actually composites. Expensive, but they work great for locating. Then you don't have to think about it. But most of the time, I locate. I'll actually walk sideways, and I'll kind of do this. And that's how I generally locate. And then I just keep walking. And every 10 feet, what's the golden rule when you're locating? Eye on task, eye on job, eye on... Where are we locating? Where are all utilities? Roadway. So we're locating usually on sidewalk, boulevard, or residential roads, right? Not on freeways or highways or anything like that, which means every 10 feet. Where the hell am I? Okay, right? Because it is true, right? You get let off and, you know, before you know it, you look around, well, what neighborhood am I in now? It's the second. It's 3 kilometers away and we're still, I got it. Right, we get so focused on this, we forget about what's happening around us. Right, so roadways, traffic ways, stuff like that, we got to think about it. How do you locate something that's over there on East 12th, Grandview Highway? It's 15 feet that way. Now what do we do? Wait for the light, run out there and locate quickly and run back? We know what our policies and procedures say. No, you can't do that. You need TCP and all that kind of stuff, right? So sometimes if it's out on the roadway and we don't need to know exact location, use the offset. spray a line here, 15 feet, 2 meters, 3 meters, whatever you want, that way, and write it down your map. Right? Then you didn't get out there. Or use a tape measure. I sometimes do that. Cars run over it. Right? I'd rather have the tape measure out there run over it than me. Right? So keep it flat, keep it real, look around, make sure that you're aware of your surroundings. This will cause distortion too, because this will give you a false signal. Right? Because you want to pick the top of that bubble. That's what we're looking for in a peak situation. If we're looking at null, you're looking for the bottom of the bubble. So for those null guys, anybody here locating null most of the time? No? Okay, most of you guys are peak locators? Okay. So, well, it's null or peak. Null is just the opposite of peak. That's all you're finding the nulls. If you're finding multiples, that's when I use peak and null all the time. Right? I'll do all the peaks and I'll do all the nulls, and in between the peaks and nulls is actually where the utility is. Right? Because it gets distorted by other utilities beside it. Okay. So generally locating, that's what you want to do. So grounding, peak, null, use your correct settings, locate what you're comfortable with and what you know. Try to find, if you're doing peak, you want to find the hump. If you're finding null, you want to find the bottom. That simple. And direct connect is always the best, but an induction clamp, depending on your frequencies. And try to use the number one, which is direct. Okay? So far, so good? Yeah, okay. Okay. Ground. We just talked about it, but your ground is basically going to be right angles away. Okay? You can move it, and you can see what it does. I always say is if you really want to know your machine, try it. Try putting it there. Put your locator out there. Or if you have two guys, it's even better. If you don't, do what I do is I just run my locator, put it right on the ground in front of it, or stand it up. Lean up against a tree where the utility is. And then I listen to the tone, and then I move my ground accordingly to see if I'm getting what I want. Right? It's the same thing as a two-man. So if I had two-man, one person standing here, okay, what's your gain? What do you got on there? Give me your percentage or whatever gain you have, and then I'll start moving around until we get the best. Right? Your transmitter will usually tell you that you're getting good MPA, right? Getting good signal. Right? And the higher, the better. Okay. So ground is basically, it's just a current flow. So it's just your direction of current flow, and you get to change it to what you want it to do. And you can use lots of things. Just try different things. See what they work for you and how they work, because even I don't know, what that's grounded to. If I see a grounding rod on a house, I get really excited because that's perfect. Click right on the grounding. How could you go wrong? It's deep in the earth. It's everything I need, right? And if it's dry, water. I carry water and pour it around the negative. Wet that whole area down, and then all of a sudden my signal strength goes way up. And I'm confident. Okay. Frequencies. Another hour's discussion. So frequencies, depending on what you do, but golden rule, start low, work high. What's low? I'd say you don't want to go any higher than 8. Okay, 8,000 hertz. Okay, that's where you want to start. Work your way from there. 8,000, 33. I generally jump from 33 up to 200. That's me, because I also use power and radio sweeps. But generally, if you want, you can use it on 131 or whatever your system is designed for. So generally, you can start at 1. Some guys like 1,000. Other guys are, firing 12 hertz. They're really going crazy. Or you can go up and start around 8, and then work your way from there. If it's good connection, good solid connection, long pipe, good conductor, you can go. How long can you go on 8K on a, say, 36-inch water pipe steel? If you connected, good connection, good ground, getting good strength all the way around, you're on 8K, so 8,000 hertz, which is low. How long do you think you can go? Anybody ever tried? Yeah, 3, 5. On a pipeline, we've done 16 kilometers. Still get a signal. That's a pipeline. Now we're talking big steel, right? But the bigger the steel, the better conductor, the further you can go. The low frequencies are low wave bands. They're long wave bands. So always think of as your transmitter is a string that long. If you're using 8, if you're using a string stretched out like this, it's going to be this long. If you're using 200, then your frequency is going to be like this. Well, it's only going to be that long. So that's as far as it's going to go. So 200, you're only going to go maybe an eighth of the distance. But in that eighth of a distance, you're going to have a whole lot of spillage. And you're going to pick up everything. And you'll get to know what everything's in the ground pretty quick if you can decipher it on your receiver. Kind of makes sense. I'm trying to gauge it on what you guys are. There's probably a couple guys back there thinking, I don't know about this. So these are your frequency lines, right? And they vary. So this would be your 8K. Your 33 would be something, well, actually, the rest of them almost look all the same. This would probably be, it's not even 200, 200 is like this. It's very, very spiky, right? So it'll go short distances, it can spill out a lot onto other utilities, but in some ways you can find a little bit more accuracy on it if it's shorter distance. Okay, just depends what's on the ground. So does that kind of make sense? 128 is a common one too. So basically your very low is you start at low hertz and you just kind of work your way up. Medium, 8. I sometimes start medium. I rarely go below 8. 8 is usually kind of a good starting point. 33. You can go up to 131 if you want. Sometimes I jump right to 200. You can go higher if you want. Right? As long as you can find it, you're comfortable finding it. Okay? Try different frequencies. Play with your instrument. Get to know your instrument. Get to know what it can do. Okay? So each of them got their own little quirks. Okay? All right. Resources. So where can you get some of these resources? Well, there's a bunch. Everybody's probably seen the front of this. Every training SOP and training in-house training system that you probably have. We use that manual all the time. In reference, you can also use best practices. Version 3, which is the newest one, BC Common Ground Alliance, is best practices through the Canadian Common Ground Alliance or best practices through the BC Common Ground Alliance, which is more BC version. Those are great resources, 2 of those, and both of them are designed for BC. Right, and that's what we want, right? Because we're doing mostly municipalities. We're not doing a lot of long line locating. We do some, but not a lot of it. So those are available and they're free. Just Google them and they come up. Really easy to find. Okay. Okay. So, any questions?
Thanks, Ron. Yeah, we have a couple questions online. I think there's, you may have answered some of them already, but I'm just going to read them off in order.
Okay.
The first question we have, how about non-metallic pipes? What's the probability a locator to locate them? And what's the best locating device out there in the market? And what's the maximum depth it can map? That sounds like about 4 questions. That's from Paulo.
Non-metallic. Non-metallic, much like we talked about, you have to be able to insert something into it. The only way you can't, if it's not a conductor, we can't put a frequency into it. It's not really that simple. If there's somewhat of a conductor in it, we can. Then we can locate it. So chance of locating something like that is you have to put something in it that is a conductor, a sonde, tape, something where you can slide it inside. Only then you're going to be able to start locating it. And then keep in mind, you're locating whatever you're putting inside. You're not locating the pipe. If there's a crack or a break in the pipe, and it comes out of the pipe and into the ground for whatever reason, that's what you're locating. So keep that in mind too, that is a possibility.
Okay, we got another one here from Nathan. He's more of, how often are these courses available on Vancouver Island?
This is the relationship we're having with BC Municipal Safety Association, and we hope there's going to be a lot. There should be, being that we'll have a great instructor over there on the Vancouver Island, we're hoping that we'll have as many as we need.
And a similar question is, where can we go to take locating courses and roughly the costs?
BC Municipal Safety Association has all the prices right there. Look up BC Municipal Safety Association training, go under courses, and you should find utility courses in there towards the bottom. They're all labeled in alphabetic order, so utility is going to be at the bottom. And there's several different courses there. You can click on one of those. It'll give you all the cost per person as well as for group costs. I don't know the exact cost off the top of my head.
Okay, we have one other one here. Have you ever had a misread from a large area of clay?
So Fort St. John, we did a locate up there. And they were warning me that some mine residuals got in the layer of water on top of the clay and had some metallic, it picks up on their locator, metallic, and it caused the utility to become just one big, large utility, not specifically, like you couldn't itemize it out. We just went to a higher frequency and we were able to locate it, but that was I don't know, some type of mining. Something happened, some minerals, whatever it was. I don't remember all the details of how she explained it, but it was, we did find the utilities, but we had to do it short bursts. And we used Direct Connect to start it off, and then we went induction the rest of the way. And just picked up on the littlest of signals as we turned up our instrument and finding the littlest of signals, and we just kept mapping those signals out, and eventually we got an idea of the direction of it, but it was not easy. If that sounds like a similar issue, I hope that's the correction to that.
Okay, well, I hope that answers the question. If not, he can send back. We got about 15 minutes left. Any questions from the crowd?
Yep.
I had someone tell me, and I never figured it out for myself, but when you're locating, you go underneath power lines. So like half a coquitlam is above and half it's below. So when you're going above and we're following, let's say like a water service line, does that interfere with what's underground?
Yeah.
So it is true. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, you can change that. So power is what frequency? Yeah, generally 60, right? So just make sure that you're running out of that realm. So if you run 8, you should be able to locate 8 right through. And it shouldn't interfere very little. But if you start using 33, it's getting pretty close to 60. So you might get some interference.
Okay.
If you go higher, like 200,
Yeah.
you can, again, bypass it and locate, but you're doing short spurts.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So it depends. Play with it that way. Or I always say is who's digging underneath them, because that's a no-no to begin with. So I'm just going to locate to it, and that's it. After that, line, question mark, I don't know. But that's one way of doing it, because you want to flip on the other side. I sometimes look at them from a distance, and I see them, and I go, ooh, cool. Hope the metal's main. Or the main is metal. I don't know how I can do that one around. It's my dyslexia is snapping back at me. But how do I locate that main? Well, shoot, I'll go to 60 power right off the bat, and I'll see if I can't pick it up just based on the fact that it runs underneath those lines. And then I'll follow it 60 out. Saves me a whole bunch of work. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Where I work, there's a lot of iron in the ground.
Yeah.
And industrial areas that have metal like all over the place. So
Right.
that's where you use different frequencies to see what the anomalies are.
You're
How
gonna,
do you experience finding utilities in that kind of ground?
yeah, if you got metal in the ground, they're conductors, so you're going to get a lot of spillage. So you want to try to get the best connection possible, and try to start off with 8K. 8K should find everything you need. Should. If you're getting problems with metal, I would just keep going up, right up to 200, and try shorter locates. But I use the range. I try to stay away from the middle ranges. Stay away from the 50s, the 60s, even the 33s, and even the 100 or 128s. I'd try to go really low or really high and try to find it, locate it that way. We had very similar issues, and I ended up using 200 is how I located it, but I didn't short bursts. And I had lots of signal, like signal went everywhere, right? Because I'm getting spillage. 200 is giving me a ton of spillage. But if you set up your system right, you can find the peak, the accuracy, you can usually find that peak. And once you find that peak and you stay on it, you mark it, just do a little at a time and just keep moving, you'll get out of that zone. So it just takes longer to do it. But that's what I've found. And that was the same, Swartzy John, I can't remember where it was. I think it had something related to the dam project. And it was a mining moraine or something they had dumped there years and years ago, and it was in the soil. Trying to think of how she described it. But there was a lot of metal in the ground, and we were having problems trying to locate just the pipeline going through. So, sorry.
Obviously, record keeping is good to have. So if your municipality gives you whatever stuff they have, like say you're locating something, why does depth matter for you? Because if you're getting stuff from the city of Vancouver, it says sewer lines here should be this depth.
Yeah.
Why does whoever's doing the excavating, why do they want to know?
Because I only worry about is they have to take cover, right? So usually it's pavement, asphalt, whatever it is. My always worry is you'll find the odd gas service embedded in concrete, embedded in sometimes the road service. Sometimes they'll do the mulch and they'll put the pipe down. And this is, I don't know who does this, but contractors, whatever it may be. And they put it too close to the surface where once the concrete gets in there, it actually grabs onto it. You pull up the panel, you can rip it, you can damage things. Sometimes it's right there. So I'll do depth checks just for that reason. I'll just do a quick little depth check just for my own. And if it's less than 18 inches, I'm going to tell them, hey, it's shallow. Watch out. Like, you know, that's all I can do. If it says a few inches, I'll tell them, hey, it could be literally a few inches, it might even be in that pavement. And if that gives them enough information, when they lift it, they take a look underneath to see if it really is, then that just saved them a gas pull. So, and I know that because, you know, I'm guilty of that one. I've done that pull-ups. I'm the utility locating guy. I'm the safety guy. I do all the safety training, and here I am pulling gas. Yeah, you only learn from your mistakes, right? I like to learn from other people's mistakes now. Not back then, you know, I wasn't quite there yet. So I hope that helps. Anybody else?
Okay, anything else online there? Okay.
Nothing here,
Ron,
just silence.
On behalf of the EOCP, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
Little piece of our appreciation.
Thanks.
And guys, don't forget to scan out. And I think we're back in about 15 minutes for the...
This one? Okay. Excellent. Thanks. Yeah. Call me if you need any questions. I'll answer.
And we're back in about 15 minutes for the Jeopardy, guys.